Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to meet all of you through all the electronic media that we have today. And my name is Helen C. Othow. I am Professor Emerita from St. Augustine's University in Raleigh, North Carolina. It gives me great pleasure to present to you a talk about Sundiata, an epic of old Mali. Sundiata, an epic of old Mali, is a true history of a hero from Mali, a West African kingdom during Africa's Middle Ages. Sundiata became the king of the second great West African kingdom of Mali. He reigned from 1235 to 1255 AD. Imagine 765 years ago, there was an African king in a kingdom of Mali. An epic is a long poem. It's usually composed at the height of a civilization, when there's a feeling of patriotism and great national pride. Nearly every student of literature perhaps has read or heard of the Iliad and Odyssey, which was written in Greece by the blind writer Homer. However, very few students know about the epics that were composed in Africa. Sundiata is not the only epic that was composed in Africa. There have been epics from the Congo and epics from other parts of West Africa. And so that's why it's so important that we all learn about African culture and African civilization. I think we'd have a totally different perception of African people and people of African descent if we knew about them. The world needs to know about the contributions of Africans to literature. Let us study the characteristics of an epic, the epic, E-P-I-C. And I'm going over some of these terms later with you, but I just want to present you with the whole picture first of Sundiata. An epic is a long poem, which sometimes it rhymes. Every line rhyming together like out, about, tree, thee. However, some epics are written partly in rhyme and partly in prose, meaning that they do not rhyme. It's written about the great deeds of a hero or heroine. Heroine means a woman, a great person. Hero is usually referred to as a man. These are the great deeds of these heroes and heroines from a nation's past. The hero oftentimes has a mythical origin. Mythical, meaning that it's legendary. It's been passed down by oral tradition, people telling each other by word of mouth first, before these were written down. He or she is special. Therefore, his or her birth may be magical. They come about through magic, the hero, when the hero is born. Epics often also have a religious background. That means related to the spiritual world. Then we have this concept of the setting. The setting is a place where the epic takes place, or where the story takes place. It is, as we said before, between 1235 AD and 1255 AD. That means in the year of our Lord, since the birth of Christ, AD, called Anno Domini, and in the kingdom of Mali. The hero or heroine always has a rival. Remember that there's always somebody who is working or something that is working against the hero, a rival, R-I-V-A-L. Someone often who is a foil to the hero. Foil, F-O-I-L. Someone who is just the opposite of the hero. Usually his or her rival. Meaning that he is just the opposite to the hero or heroine. During the setting of the epic, Mali has already been converted to a religion called Islam. I'm sure some of you have heard of Islam, I-S-L-A-M. This is the religion which has Muhammad as its prophet and refers to God as Allah, A-L-L-A-H. The Arabs or Moors spread across Africa and other parts of the world in the 8th century. That is in the 700s, which we call the 8th century, just as we call the 2020s the 21st century. So it was in the 8th century that the Arabs spread across. They came from the peninsula of Arabia and they spread across all of North Africa. That is Africa above the Sahara Desert. They spread all that. So even today, the people in the northernmost parts of Africa have the religion of Islam. And many of the countries, as we said before, which are north of the Sahara Desert, became Islamic during that time. Throughout the epic, the characters may mention Allah in the epic. Sundiata mentions Allah. However, before becoming Islamic, we must know that Africans had their own religion. Africa, since ancient times, has always believed in a God that created the universe. But they had different ways of expressing their religion. Africans believed in the powers of nature. Africans lived close to nature. And so they believed that there were powers in nature, which through their wise men or their priests could be solicited at will. They could ask the powers of nature to help them. And that was a way of getting to the great power, who was the creator. Sundiata's rival. Now we talked about the rival, the person who's just the opposite of the hero. His rival was a king by the name of Sumaoro Kante of Soso. Soso was one of the kingdoms, little kings. You had the big kingdom of Mali, which consisted of several states. And often they were referred to as kingdoms because each had its own ruler. So this was a part of Mali, a place called Soso. And he was what is called a sorcerer. A sorcerer was like a witch. I know you've heard on Halloween about witches and witchcraft, but there were certain people who had magical powers, and these were witchcraft. And so because he believed in evil and witchcraft, he was an enemy of God, Allah. And that's one reason why he's an antagonist, an enemy of Sundiata, an enemy of people. When people practice evil, they are enemies of society, even though they may have great power, but they are enemies, usually. Like Christianity, Islam teaches that people should not worship fetishes or idol gods. Christianity teaches that. And we know that Christianity somehow is related to some of the ancient African religions. We don't have time to discuss that at this time, but maybe at a later time we'll talk about that. Sumaara believes in fetishes and idols. when Sundiata and his mother, Sogalan, went in self-exile from Mali. In other words, Sundiata and his mother had to leave their kingdom of Mali after the death of Sundiata's father, who was a king. But they are allowed, when they left Mali, they're allowed by this wicked king to stay for a few days in his country. While there, Sundiata discovers that the king has a room filled with the heads of all the people he has killed. He has a head singing on the wall. And when the king plays the music on a magical instrument, the heads start moving. Can you imagine? He was evil. But sometimes out of evil comes good. Everything is not wholly evil or wholly good. Sometimes there may be a mixture. That's the strangeness of life. And so Sogalan, so they have to soon leave. They have to soon leave Sundiata's kingdom. Sogalan is the humpback mother of Sundiata. Sundiata's father was named King Magan Khan Fata, also known as Frako Magan Gegu. Sogalan is his second wife. Yes, there was a custom in ancient Africa and also in parts of Africa today wherein a man can have more than one wife. Usually they have to be very wealthy in order to take care of more than one wife. But that was an African custom, just as it was a custom in other societies that a man can have more than one wife. And certainly a king, because he could afford to take care of more than one wife and children. Now Sogalan, that wife of King Fata, Magan Fata, came from a country called Do, a land of hunters, where most of the people engaged in hunting. Some hunters came from Do, and they told King Magan Fata that he must marry an ugly, hunchback woman, but that she would bear him a son who would become the great king of Mali. King Magan did exactly as the hunters told him to do, because King Magan perhaps thought that these were spiritual people. These were spiritual powers that came to talk to him about who his second wife would be. And from this marriage with that Sogalan, the hideous-looking woman with her big eyes and her hunchback, Sundiata was born. However, as a young child, Sundiata couldn't walk. He was 7 years old and he just had to crawl. And they lived at the palace. They lived at the king's palace because his mother was the second wife of the king. However, the first wife of King Magan was named Sasuma Berete, who was very jealous of Sogalan and her son Sundiata. She had heard that Sundiata was destined to become a great king of Mali, so that made her jealous. The very thought that it wasn't going to be her son that was going to be the great king of Mali, but this little creature that crawls around on the floor. Sasuma made fun of Sogalan's appearance. She, made fun of it. And you've heard how it is, so you never should laugh at someone who's handicapped. But she did. She laughed made fun of her. And after King Magan died before he saw that his son would become great. This evil stepmother, the first wife, began persecuting and Soberlin and her crippled son. She made them stay in a back room at the palace and would bring guests to the back room to see the mother and son, and showing them like as though they were freaks. She made them stay in the back of the palace. She mistreated this mother and her son. She tried to make fun of Sundiata because he couldn't walk at 7 years old. It was a custom that people would pick leaves from the baobab tree, B-A-O-B-O-B-A-B, which was a large tree that grows in Africa. It has so much symbolism in it because it's such a huge tree. And they had this baobab tree in the back of the house. And the people would come wanting leaves. And the other little boy, the first wife's son, could easily pick the leaves. And so this first wife would tell Soberlin, oh, my son could walk when he was 4 years old. You know, just trying to rub it into Soberlin because her son could not walk. And however, at 8 years old, Soberlin also gets tired, and one day she hits him up beside the head with a stick. She hits her own son, Sundiata. Sundiata becomes tired about his mother's anxiety about him and tells her that on that day, he's going to stand up. He tells his mother, I'm going to stand up. In the meantime, before King Magan died, he had given Sundiata a griot, Griot. That is someone who sings about the history of the royal family while playing a string instrument. Can you imagine something so elegant at the court? To have a musician who would tell the story of your family going back generations and generations while he played the string instrument called the kora. And I'm going to show you a picture of the kora in a few minutes. And so the king loved his son and gave his young son this griot before he died. On that special day, Sundiata sends his griot. He calls his griot was named Bala Faseka, to go to the ironsmiths where they make things out of iron and to bring him an iron rod. Doesn't this also tell you something else about the society? Something about the occupation of the people in society? That they made things out of iron? Beautiful things out of iron. And there are ironsmiths in Africa today, even during the colonial period of slavery. There were Africans who were brought here to America and made beautiful fences and gates out of iron. So Bella, the Sika, goes and brings back this iron rod for Sundiata, the little boy. Sundiata presses the rod using both hands and raises himself to his feet. He then puts more pressure on the rod, turning it into a bow, bending the little boy who had been weak, who had never even been able to stand before, takes his iron rod and bends it into a bow. Miraculous. His mother is elated, and he himself is happy that he can now stand and be the son that his mother has longed for. At this moment, the griot creates a song about this miracle. At every incident in the life of the people, the griot makes a song. And so he records the history. This is also a part of the history of Mali, is the story of Sundiata. And he calls this the hymn of the bow. Sundiata is now fit to be a great hunter and warrior. Because, you use the bow and arrow. Long time before they had guns, they had used bows and arrows. And so Sundiata, this is very symbolical because he will become a great hunter and use the bow and arrow. He is also referred to as the lion. And so in this chapter from the epic, it's called the awakening of the lion, because Sundiata is coming into his destiny. The Sundiata's mother's family had a totem. In those days, families had a special animal that was theirs, that referred to them, that they used. And the lion was the totem of Sogalon's family. Sogalon is also known as the buffalo woman. Somehow she had the characteristics of a buffalo. So in African society, that's not just fetish, it's worshiping of nature, the realization that there's some things in nature that are strong, and there's some things in nature that are weak. The buffalo is strong, so you try to epitomize what you stand for. The lion is strong, so you epitomize what the lion stands for. To show his love for his mother, Sundiata pulls up the whole baobab tree and gives it to his mother. He shows that he doesn't have to just pick a leaf, but he can pull up the whole baobab tree, which is one of the largest trees in Africa, so that she can use its leaves for cooking. Satsuma, the first wife, is now smitten with more jealousy because Sundiata has become strong and popular with his companions. He's not only strong, but he has friends now. The other boys flock to Sundiata because he's so big and strong. He's even bigger than the others. He becomes a symbol, S-I-M-B-O-N, which means an initiated great hunter, symbol. And another name that comes from symbol is Samba, S-A-M-B-A. When some Africans came to the New World, especially to North America, the people didn't understand the meaning of their name, Samba, and often were referred to as Sambo. And we've heard about all the stories that have been concocted about little black Sambo. People were so ignorant, they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know who they were. And so Simba means great hunter. And so Sogalon sees the jealousy of the first wife, so she decides, we've got to leave here. I'm going to take my son and we're going to leave here because this woman does not like us, the way she's treated us, and she's going to continue to try to persecute us. So Sogalon fears for her life and the life of his son, so she decides that they must leave Mali and go somewhere far away to live. The first person that accepts the party consisted of Sundiata, his mother, and by this time, his mother had 2 daughters. So he also goes away with his 2 sisters and his mother as he leaves the palace. As that evil king, he accepted them, told them they could come and stay, allowed them to stay with him. The sorcerer king, Sumarakante. The first wife of King Magan, the evil stepmother, has already sent a message to the wicked king to kill Sundiata and his family. However, while at Sumera's palace, Sundiata outsmarts the riddle. You know, at those days, another form of the oral tradition, those stories that were told out loud, was called the riddle. People knew how to speak in riddles. And so Sumera said a riddle. And little Sundiata was so wise, he answered the riddle. He said, I know what you're doing. He said, you already received the message to kill us. And so the king was so befuddled that this young man was so wise. And so Sundiata and his mother escaped Sumera's palace and continued to find refuge along the way, and other royal families along the way that are kind to them. They're on the move, as you say. They're almost like homeless people now. They are looking for a place. They're looking for a home. Sundiata and his family are on the move. And after many years, as fate would have it, that same evil king tried to attack Mali while Sundiata and his family were away. Not having a powerful king in the palace or in the whole country, the people began looking for Sundiata. They said, we were supposed to be saved by this young prince. Where is he? Where is he and his mother? And so they wanted Sundiata to come to their rescue. They finally found him in a place far away called Mema, M-E-M-A, and implored him to help them. He finally agrees to help them. However, his mother, Sobalon, has died and is buried in a friendly city that had given them refuge. Sobalon has agreed to go back to Mali, to liberate Mali from the evil king that has attacked it. Sundiata has agreed to go back to Mali. His mother is dead now, and he's going to go back. So Sundiata gathers his friends together. Who were mighty warriors. They were mighty warriors. They knew how to use the spear and everything. They knew how to ride the horse and fight. And by then, it was the Arabic people who introduced the horse into Africa. The first horses were brought into Africa by the Arabs. So Sundiata knew how to ride a horse, and he knew how to use a spear to fight in battle. And his friends, with him, all the friends that he gathered along the way, became a part of his army. After many fierce battles with the wicked king Sumera, the latter is defeated and escapes into a cave. He had magical powers. He could become invisible when he wanted to. Because evil is usually mighty, evil is usually strong. But you have to continually try to fight against evil, in spite of its seeming to be very strong. So Sundiata returns with his army to Niani, which is the capital of Mali, in triumph, and becomes a great king of Mali, fulfilling his destiny. That is the story of Sundiata. And one other thing that I wanted to talk with you about is the comparison between Sundiata and the Lion King. The beautiful musical that we have seen today on the movies, it first was on Broadway, was based on the story of Sundiata, the ancient epic of Mali. So I want to talk with you about some parallels between Sundiata and the Lion King. Sokolon's family's totem was called the lion. After his victory over Sumara, Sundiata was called the Lion King. In the Disney film, The Lion King, the young lion's father, the king lion, had died, just as Sundiata's father had died. The young lion did not know that his uncle was so treacherous, that his father's own brother was so treacherous. The uncle had made him believe that he, the young lion himself, was the cause of his father's death. The young lion left his home and wandered because he was so grieved. He loved his father, and he carried the guilt, thinking that he had killed his father. The uncle had told him a lie. Sokolon and Sundiata left their homeland also because of fear. Both the young lion and Sundiata had close relatives who were their enemies. You would think that people who were close to you or relatives to you or lived in the same household were your friends. But no, they were enemies. The young lion, his uncle, and Sundiata, his stepmother, instead of wanting to take care of her stepchildren and the second wife, she tried to persecute him. However, both lived a good life, Sundiata and the young lion, and made friends with their acquaintances along the way. The young lion with the creatures, made friends with the creatures in the wild, and Sundiata with royal companions whom he hunted and played with. Yet, inevitably, both had to return home. The hero usually has to return home. The hero leaves home. He has all these adventures, and eventually the hero goes back. So inevitably, both the young lion and Sundiata had to return home. The hero is usually stronger when he returns. The young lion is now a large, mature lion, and Sundiata is a strong warrior. Both had to contend with evil during their journeys. The young lion with the hyenas that would pursue him, and Sundiata with the wicked sorcerer king. The spirit of the young lion's father returns to tell him that his own uncle, his own brother, had killed him. The new grown lion is very angry then when he finds out from the spirit of his father that his own uncle had killed him. He kills his uncle, annihilating evil and becoming the new Lion King. He reunites with his mother. Sundiata defeats the sorcerer king and shows his wicked stepmother that in spite of her treachery, he has fulfilled his destiny and has saved her and her country. Notice the different foils in the characters as we talk about the opposites. Sundiata versus King Sumara, the sorcerer king, and Sokolon, the mother of Sundiata and the wicked stepmother. So throughout you see these opposites, characters. They are foils. And then note the themes in the story. The ideas that the story conveys, such things as envy and greed and injustice, hatred, jealousy, religious disbelief, and fear. These are contrasting themes versus charity, justice, love, self-assurance, and obedience. So we also, as you read the epic, think about the moral of the story. The moral is the lesson the story teaches. And Notice also how the epic teaches about the culture of the people, their pastimes and ceremonies, and their occupations, such as the griots, hunting, fishing, iron making, gold making, musical instruments, such as the kora and the balafon, which are still used in the Senegambia region today. The Senegambia region is like the grasslands called the Sahel, Sahel, right beside the desert, but it's right before you get to the forest region. It's the grasslands area right there. And this was where Senegal, which is today, was once a part of the kingdom of Mali. So I want you also, before you leave, to listen to the music of Mali. These are just some illustrations that I wanted to show you. This instrument here is the kora. It's a beautiful instrument. It is a stringed instrument. And the bottom of it is made like from a gourd, Gourd. A gourd is a big plant that is gotten usually from a very marshy region. It grows along sort of a marshy, wet region, the gourds, and they use gourds to make so many different things, instruments, and bowls for using cooking, bowls for carrying things, and decoration. And so this is a beautiful stringed instrument, and I hope you'll be able to hear some music from the kora. And this, of course, is the book Sundiata, the Epic of Mali. It has an illustration of Sundiata. It shows him as a young king with the elders in the background. The people are very respectful of their elders in Africa, and elders of the older people. They respect them because they feel that the elders are the link between them and the ancestors, the great ancestors. They appreciate the ancestors who've gone on before because they feel that the ancestors are still living in spirit. So they have a lot of respect for ancestors and for the elders. This picture depicts all that. You see the elders in the background. And this is a book by D.T. Niani, N-I-A-N-E. Notice his last name is the same as the name of the capital city of Mali, D.T. Niani. The story was first translated from the Mandinka language into Arabic first, and from Arabic into French. And now, in the 1960s, it was translated to English. Sundiata. And here is another illustration of Sundiata on a horse as a warrior. Notice he's on the warrior. Look at all the spears that are directed against him. Yet he is fighting with all those spears. This is a lady and a child from that same area of the Niger River and Ghana. And these sketches were done by a famous African-American artist by the name of John Biggers. I got these sketches from his book about Anansi, the web of life in Africa, where he had copies of his beautiful artwork, sketches by John Biggers. His latest sketch of a lady from Ghana. And Ghana in West Africa is a place where we have all the legends about Anansi the spider. And he is a lady with her traditional African hairstyle, her cornrows, and even has a big pick in the cornrow and different styles that they had. Africans are so creative. And here, this picture again of the kora, and this is another stringed instrument, like another version of the kora here. And we know ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt was the cradle of civilization of the world. More authors are studying about Egypt. Look at the lady, the mummy with the braids. And they had these on display at the North Carolina Museum of Art. If you travel to North Carolina Museum of Art, you can see all of this Egyptian. Some historians believe that there was a migration from the east of Africa to the west. And so there are many characteristics about the culture of West Africa and ancient culture of Egypt throughout West Africa. And here is a picture with a friend of mine, one of my colleagues gave me. She got it, I believe it was either in London or Paris, but it's of Nefertiti and Amenhotep, her husband, the great people who taught that there was, they also showed that there was one God, that we should worship one God instead of all the other gods. And she was persecuted before she died because she tried to tell the people that they should only worship one God, Nefertiti. Here is another sketch which John Biggers made of a king, that on different festive occasions, the king or chief is carried. People carry them, and they have umbrellas over them, over the chief. It's called palanquin, Paloquin, palanquin. All right. Also, the occupation of fishing is very prominent in West Africa. Many of them live beside the coast, like in Ghana, where they fish, and they fish with nets. John Biggers captures all this during his visit to Ghana in West Africa. And here's a home. These are similar to the homes that they had in Mali and also in the northern part of Ghana. Notice they are made out of clay and brick. They're steps, elaborate homes. So you see some smaller homes, but also in West Africa, they have large homes made out of sandstone. Okay? Now, this is another sketch by John Biggers showing a mother carrying her child. Mother is very close to her child in West Africa and throughout Africa. The baby is with her at all times. When she goes to the market, wherever she goes, the baby is right there with her. And in the background, you see the men making the nets where they will catch the fish. Yeah. Africans also use masks, M-A-S-K-S, on festive occasions. These masks represent the nature spirits that they employ. And because they were agriculturalists, they wanted to have a nice crop. They believed in fertility. And so they would ask this particular fertility god to help them, and they would wear the mask. Or either they could wear the mask which represented the ancestors. On those festive occasions, they would wear masks. And most of the time, it was the men that wore the masks. They had secret societies called egungun, and they would wear the mask. And there would be somebody who would keep the women and the children away, because they shouldn't get in the way of the mask dances. And they believed in fertility. Some of the carvings that come out of Ghana and Nigeria represent the idea of fertility. Beautiful black ebony carvings. All right. I hope I haven't just been overbearing for you. I hope you have learned something from this lecture. I wanted you to remember some of the things as we go. Some of the literary terms, like when you write about literature, we should not only learn to read literature and appreciate it, but to appreciate it more is when we discover certain things about literature, like such things as setting. What is the meaning of setting? What is conflict? What is comparison? Notice how we compared The Lion King with Sundiata. The themes, the ideas that come out of it. And from the conflict, how is the conflict resolved at the end of the story? That's called the resolution of conflict. Also, the moral is very important. What lesson does this story give us? How does it let us know about life? How does the story let us know how we should live life? The moral of the story. These are some things. Again, we have occupations. Remember the occupations that we found out about in Sundiata. The occupations of the people of Mali, which are some of the same occupations that are carried on today in Africa. The griots, the people, G-R-I-O-T-S, who play music at the court, special people, and they inherit those occupations from their parents. The griot's father was a griot, and his father before him was a griot, and they usually perform at the court of the king, the court of the king, the griots. The hunters who go out with their bows and arrows. The ironsmiths, the people who make iron. The goldsmiths, the people who make gold. These areas were the centers of iron making and gold. People from all over the world sent envoys to Mali, buying the gold and the iron and the beautiful things that were made. And they were carried all over the world to Europe and other places during that time. During the 13th century, which was the 1200 BC. There were fishermen, and there were farmers, and there were pastoralists who took care of the sheep. They were shepherds, the pastoralists, and they would often move from place to place, finding better pastures for their cattle and their sheep. And then there were the warriors who defended the land, who defended their country against their oppressors, such as Sundiata did against Sona Jobarteh. Then, remember what an epic is? An epic is about heroes and heroines, great men and great women. Epic. And then we have characters. Don't forget the characters of the epic, the major characters. There are many more characters, but these are some of the major ones. Sundiata himself, his mother Sogolon, his father, King Magan Konfata, the sorcerer king Sasuma, the sorcerer king was Sumara Kante. Sumara Kante was sorcerer king. And the queen mother, the first wife of the king, Sasuma Berete. And don't forget the griot, Sundiata's griot. Bala Faseka. Okay. And we're hoping that we can have some music so you can actually hear the beautiful music and singing of a lady from Mali who's singing. And I hope you have enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you will enjoy the music to learn something about the beauty and the mystery of Africa.
So, this song is about love, I mentioned. Jarabi. I would like very much if you could join us on this song. We are Jarabi. We are Jarabi. We are Jarabi. We are Jarabi. For those that can do two things at the same time, to clap and sing. Yeah, or half. We are Jarabi. 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 Thank you so much. Okay, this next song is entitled Mama Muso. kabila kinuje musukendo lebelo ringa kuma tunyale nakabilo barakata kende kele tumengi